So my name's Sean Wright. I'm reporting on behalf of Ringwalk UK Media, and I'm joined by middleweight operator Marcus Morrison. Good to see you, Marcus. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you ever so much for joining us. Great to see you. You've got a fight scheduled this weekend on Friday, I believe, in Manchester. Do we know much about an opponent yet? Or
I've been sent an opponent. He's not much of a world beat, to be honest, but it's a case of just getting in there and getting back under the lights and putting in a good performance and then looking on from there to kick on towards the end of the year.
Yeah, and we're expecting fans there. Obviously, that will be a change from your last fight. Your fight well documented against Chris Eubank Jr. That was at the Manchester Arena, I think, wasn't it? How surreal was it having that fight? I'm sure you, as a lad from the northwest, have experienced many a night. I know you've been on lots of big cards in Manchester. Was it quite an eerie feel, if you like, to fight with no fans?
Yeah, it was a bit of an odd experience. Like I said before, I've been there many times before in front of thousands. So coming out in obviously a huge arena, with, like you said, the eerie feeling, it was odd, a bit like a sparring session, if you like. But listen, it was the same for both fighters, and it's in these mad times you've got to get used to these sort of things.
Yeah, absolutely. We touched on the fact that fight with Chris Eubank Jr. Lots of people, I'm sure, fueled your fire on the lead up, because people weren't expecting you to live with him. People weren't expecting you to, be competitive, and you really were competitive in that fight. I'm sure you had plenty of self-belief before, but has that given you a little bit more impetus and a bit more belief that you can fight at that top level?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to lie to myself and say after that fight I'm ready for sort of anything out there, the top level. But I certainly believe, at British domestic level, I'm well up there. Who can handle myself with any of those boys. And yeah, it has given me sort of a confidence, if you like, to get in there and feel comfortable at that level. But yeah, it's get Friday out of the way, and those are the fights I'll be looking for.
Yeah, it's testament to yourself and I think one of your stablemates, I think Callum Thompson's on that card as well. It's nice to see some of the small hall shows coming back again, isn't it? I think it's on Kieran Farrell's promotional show. How important is it that these small hall shows are supported, because they're reliant basically on ticket sales, aren't they? So it's really good to have those shows back.
Yeah, I think people forget and don't realise how important these types of shows are, because you might see sort of 4 or 5 times a month these big shows on telly, but other than that, there's still fighters up and down the country that need to be fighting and gain experience, getting paid, and these types of shows are perfect and great for these fighters that are sort of coming through and building themselves, sort of under the radar, if you like, ready for when the time comes and they are asked to step on the big stage. It's important. It's a big stepping stone in boxing. Yeah,
and I think you're right. I think quite rightly there are some professional boxers that bemoan the fact that the opportunity hasn't presented itself. But like you said, it's a win-win, even if it's not a world beater, as you said. It's about keeping your hand in and keeping sharp and ticking over, I guess, isn't it?
Exactly. It's you can do all the rounds you want in the gym and spar as much as you want. Hit the pads and bags as much as you want. But under the lights, it's a completely different feeling against any opponent. You've got a lot to deal with, being the pressure, the bright lights, and it's important that you do try and keep it under the lights as much as you can.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it was like a long layoff in my last fight. It felt a bit weird getting back in there. But listen, Eubank Jr. The same. He'd been out for a while. So it's all about just sort of keeping the ball rolling, and then when your shot comes, you're ready to take it.
Yeah. You mentioned a little earlier about the prospect of a few other domestic fighters. It's pretty stacked. It's got a decent amount of depth in the at British level. Obviously, the likes of Felix Cash and Denzel Bentley, they had a great fight last year. Likes of Nathan Heaney, you've got Linus Adofia, and then you've got a few more established ones, likes of Eggington, Williams and stuff. How exciting is it for you to be part of that domestic scene?
Yeah, it's a great sort of mix at the minute. There's plenty of fights to be made. And the thing is, well, these fights can be made for meaningful titles. And, you know, that's what I want now. I want title fights. I want to be involved in big nights. So like I say, get Friday out of the way, and, you know, we are gunning for titles. You know, whoever's got them, you know, that's what we want.
Yeah. I guess it's really important to mention as well the stable that you're in. It's difficult not to. I mean, Joe Gallagher's a very well decorated trainer. He's one of the best in the business. Sometimes in some sectors, maybe it's fair to suggest that he's underrated. But how good a setup, how good a camaraderie is there in that group? It always looks like no matter what individuals are in there, it's always a tight-knit unit and a very loyal group. Is that the case?
Yeah, definitely. I think Joe's drilled that into us all. Even before anyone comes and trains with Joe, I think he first looks at the type of person he are, if they'll fit in with us, with the group that sort of we are, and our banter and stuff. Because, you know, you couldn't just walk into our gym with an ego. You know, you'd feel out of place straight away. So there's no egos in the gym. Everyone gets on, and it's sort of like a family feel, if you like.
Yeah, I've spoken to Joe before, and you definitely get that impression. And he says he doesn't like entourages, and he wouldn't just take anyone. It's about, like you said, the dynamic and about fitting in with that group. Do you feel like your game, if you like, has come on as a result of having or being able to work with those sort of former champions? Obviously, Joe's experience, you've got Anthony Crawler helping out now as well. And I guess it rubs off the likes of Callum Johnson, Tasha Jonas.
Yeah, of course. You know, in the years I've been with Joe, there's been plenty of fighters that have come and gone, that I've rubbed shoulders with, and, you know, you sort of take you know, even if it's a tiny bit from each fighter, and it improves your game. You know, whether it's, you know, your Quiggs, your Smiths, you know, your Macklins. Macklin was sort of just finishing as I was getting into the game, and there's like a few months, you know, where as I was just getting in, he was just sort of coming to the end of his career. And, you know, it's mad how many shoulders you do, you know, how many shoulders you do end up rubbing with. And, you know, if you, like I said, if you can take a little bit away from each fighter and learn something, then, you know, you're not in a bad place.
Yeah. Now, some people might not know, but when we're interviewing, we often ask how people started out and stuff like that, and whether they had any sporting prowess as a youngster. You actually played for Man City as a youngster, and you suffered the disappointment and heartbreak that often happens in sport at a very young age, at 16. How difficult was that at the time to navigate past, and did that help fuel your fire and your desire to succeed in another sport?
Well, I think a lot of people think that I came from football and came to boxing, but the truth is I was boxing before I started playing football. I started boxing. It was actually on my birthday when I walked into the gym and put on a pair of gloves for the first time, and I'd literally boxed ever since. And it was only until I got to sort of 9, 10 where I got into football. You know, a lot of kids sort of started playing football at sort of 6, 7. I was a bit of a late starter. So for a long time, up until sort of 10, 11, up until 16, I was doing both. So I was playing football at a high level, and I was boxing at a high level as an amateur. And obviously the football didn't work out for me. So naturally I just sort of turned back to focus more on my boxing. But I think as a kid, especially when I got into football, I knew I was going to do one of the two. I knew it was going to be either, you know, football or boxing. And obviously at the minute, you know, but well, not at the minute, but from sort of 16, boxing sort of priority, and that's where I put all my focus.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're a boxing man. Do you ever sort of think about what might have been when you look at the footballers and the ludicrous amounts of money they earn? And I read somewhere, this can't be true, but I read somewhere that one of the reasonings that you didn't excel more at football than you did at boxing was because they said you're too small. So here you are knocking people out as an adult, and you look at the likes of the footballers in modern day.
Even from 11, like I said, when I first started, I was tiny.
Yeah.
I remember being in sort of just getting to high school, and all the girls towered me, and so did all the lads. I was really short, and even up like 16. Sorry about this, mate.
That's all right.
Even up until I was 16. So this is sort of where I think the decision got made. I was 16. I was sort of becoming a man, and I was short, and I was a defender. I was quite short for my position, and I think at that age you sort of try and gauge how tall you're going to be from your parents and stuff, and your body type, and they sort of turn around and say, you're not going to be big enough. You might grow to be 5'10" at tops at best, but here I am now. I'm 6 foot, and but things don't always work out, and I guess it's always for a reason.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I was the smallest in the year by a country mile, and I haven't grown to be 6 foot, unfortunately. But I'm with you. I was like the one that looked like, even when I was in 5th year, like I was just starting secondary school. So I get it. It's pretty inspirational for youngsters, though, to see that that you were doing both sports and dealt that knockback, and you've continued on. So testament to you, mate. We've been asking a lot of our boxers that we interview, or coaches, or people within the industry, how they think a fight might go between AJ and Fury, should it eventually get made. Would be interested to get your thoughts on how you think that fight would go.
Yeah, it's a great fight, and it'd be a real shame if it didn't end up happening for whatever reason. Especially if it was money. But I honestly do believe that we will end up seeing that fight. I think there's too much money in it for it to not to be made. And like I said before, it's a great fight, and I hope I do get to see it. But for me, I'm going to go with Fury. I think Fury wins that fight. I think they're both sort of top of the game, ahead, not by a country mile, but they're both leading the pack, I'd say. And it'd be a great fight. Obviously, AJ carries that punching power that if he lands, it can be devastating. But for me, I think Fury's ring craft and his boxing ability is too much.
Yeah. We know obviously you're a massive boxing fan. Who did you idolise growing up? Who were the ones that you looked at and wanted to emulate?
Well, growing up, I'm actually from the estate that I'm from. It's not a big estate really. Ricky Hatton grew up, a couple of minutes down the road. Sort of getting in the gym at 7. At 7 years old, he was sort of just turning pro, and he was sort of the man on our estate. Everyone was going watching Ricky, and that sort of drove me to what he did, sort of thing. But stylistically, it was sort of never my style that I looked up to. I was a big fan of Sugar Ray Leonard. He's my all-time favourite fighter, and I've got sort of videos after videos of him that I did. So yeah, Sugar Ray was definitely my idol. Yeah.
I mean, it's been a hotbed of talent, the Northwest, really, hasn't it? For it's certainly modern day history, and the likes of Hatton, more recently Crawler and Quigg, and you got obviously Amir Khan down the road and stuff as well. Not to mention the Smith brothers. So it must be you must feel proud to be sort of part of that rich history, and like you said earlier, to have rubbed shoulders with a lot of those fighters in the gym.
Yeah, I think, like you said, you picked a lot of the fighters from Manchester or Liverpool. I think both great fight cities, and I think the youngsters looking up to these types of fighters as kids can only sort of drive them and push them on to want to get in the gym and do good things. And I think because of the success of those two cities, Manchester and Liverpool, have had, it will keep producing champions. future. But yeah, I think boxing gyms, in general, are a great thing. Keeps kids off the streets and focusing their energy somewhere positive.
Yeah, definitely. Moving forward, obviously, you fight at the weekend, and you'll be hoping for bigger and better things off the back of that. What sort of venues are you looking forward to fighting? Obviously, the Manchester Arena is a very iconic arena, some great fights up and down the years. Is that somewhere you'd like to fight again? I know you've fought in packed houses there before, or is there a holy grail of a boxing venue that you'd like to fight at?
Yeah, for me, Manchester Arena, like I said before, like Ricky Hatton grew up on my estate, so there's been plenty of times I went and watched Rick at the arena, as a kid, like just dreaming of fighting there one day. And, a few years down the line, I made my debut at the arena, so it's definitely a special place for me, the Manchester Arena. Yeah. But, listen, everyone loves to go and fight in, America, whether it be MSG or in Vegas or whatever. But for me, a packed out Manchester Arena, tops anywhere for me in front of your own crowd. Imagine that topping the bill in front of your own. There won't be much more special moments than that. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm going to ask you a few quick fire questions in the hope that we get to learn a little bit about you guys at Gallagher's gym. So this is not a trap to get you in any trouble by any means, but I will just let you know I've asked Callum Thompson a few questions, and he was quite complimentary. So I'll fire a few. For example, I might say who's the most talented fighter, and you might say, I don't know, Paul Butler, whatever. So are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Who has the worst dress sense?
It's got to be Jose Burton.
Okay. Who is the biggest joker?
Again, got to be Jose Burton.
Yeah. Who would you say is the best dancer?
The best what, sorry?
Dancer.
Best dancer? I reckon Croller's got a few moves in him.
Okay. Who would you say has got the biggest punch, pound for pound?
Pound for pound, Callum Johnson.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to face one of them. Who is the most laid back?
Most laid back? Probably Crawler again. He's too laid back.
Yeah.
He'd dead if it weren't screwed on. Yeah.
Who would you say is the most intelligent?
Most intelligent? I'd have to put myself up there,
Yeah.
Yeah, fighters, I'd have to put myself up there.
Fair play. And who would you say is the fittest?
The fittest? Possibly Paul Butler. Good engine on him.
Yeah. Fair few common denominators in there, but I'll...
How Quick's gone? Quick had some engine on him. I'm going to go Butler.
Paul Butler. Fair play. All that remains is for us here at Ringwalk to wish you well for Friday, Marcus, and we look forward to documenting your career in further detail, and we wish you all the best moving forward, mate.
Top man, thank you very much.
All right, thanks ever so much. Take care, Marcus. Thank you, mate. Take care, bud.
Bye.